Alright, so I'm going to be showing how to replace the screen on this iPhone 7 Plus. So first you're going to need a pentalobe 0.8 or a P2 screwdriver bit. Alright, so we're going to remove the 2 screws from the bottom here. Alright. Just remove the 2 screws here. You want to keep all the screws in order because they are different size, shapes, and lengths. So you don't want to get them mixed up. Alright, it's very important. Alright, remove those 2 screws. After you remove those 2 screws, of course, make sure your phone is off. Okay, and then after we do that, we're going to get a thin pry tool like this, and we're going to get between the plastic part frame of the screen and the aluminum housing. Alright, so get under there, and then you just run the tool along. You don't want to insert the tool too far, and then along the side there's actually a metal bracket, so you can actually slide the tool all the way along that metal bracket. Okay, we're going to go over to the other side, same thing, get the tool, slide it around, and then along the metal bracket, slide it along as well. Okay, you're going to want to be careful because there is the LCD cable on this side. So once you get this open, I like to use the metal tool and kind of twist it a little to pop it open all the way. Alright, this feels like they might have changed the screen before because, or I guess the adhesive is just bad. Alright, so you want to carefully open this again because the LCD cable is folded over on the side here. So here you can see the LCD cable. Okay, actually let me get a dark pad here to make it easier to see. So this will probably make it easier to see here. There you go, you can see that. Alright, so now we're gonna peel off this old adhesive. It's kind of gross, you don't want to leave the old adhesive in there. It's gonna stick all over my hands. Okay, so once you get this open slightly like that, you're going to want to pull the screen downwards or away from the top. Alright, just like this. If the adhesive is holding it, you might have to use the pry tool to kind of help scrape underneath and slide the thing under. So there you go. Here you can see it releases the top like that. Once you get the top released, then you can open this over like a book like this. Alright, so once you get this open, you'll see that this uses some tri-wing screws. So we're going to have to switch to the tri-wing screwdriver bit. Alright. And we're going to use is a 0.6 or a Y000. Okay. And then we're going to hold this open, and then we're going to remove these tri-wing screws. Again, keep them all in order because they are different size, shapes, and lengths, and you don't want to get them mixed up. Alright. So just remove the 4 screws holding this bracket in place. Alright, and put the screws basically in the pattern that you're removing them, so that way you can know where they came from. That's how I remove them, so that I can know how to put them back in the same spot. Alright, remove the 4th screw here. There we go. Alright, so now we got all 4 screws out. We can lift this metal bracket up. Just get underneath with your fingernail or a plastic pry tool. If it gets stuck like that, usually that's because the foam underneath is getting caught. So what you have to do is you kind of have to rotate the this thing, and it will peel it away from that foam. So now here's the battery connector. We're going to disconnect that. So you want to use your fingernail or a plastic pry tool. Get underneath that connector and just pop it up. And there you go. That's the battery connector. After you disconnect the battery connector, you want to press and hold the power button for about 10 to 15 seconds just to drain any power. And that will prevent risk of damaging anything if you happen to short something out on the board. Alright, just like that. We're going to disconnect the 2 LCD screen connectors. So there's 2 connectors here. Again, use your fingernails or a pry tool and just go along the side here and lift it up just like that. And then the one underneath, same thing. Get underneath and flip that up. Alright, just like that. So now we disconnected the screen. Now we want to disconnect the camera and the sensors up here. And to do that, you also need to use the tri-wing screwdriver. Alright, and there's 3 screws here. Oops. Alright. Again, keep the screws in order because they are different size, shapes, and lengths. Very important. All right. All right, so now we got those 3 out. All right, so now we got those 3 out, and then we're gonna remove this connector here. And then we're gonna disconnect this cable as well. All right, just like this, pop it up and release it. There we go. So now we got all these connectors disconnected. You are going to want to clean off the old adhesive if there's adhesive stuck there. Because having the old adhesive all lumpy in there can actually cause damage to the screen. So we're going to just try and wipe this off. Normally the adhesive kind of peels up, but this adhesive, I don't know, it got really like gunky. So I'm just using a napkin to kind of try and wipe it off, and hopefully it will all come out, or most of it. Okay. All right, you want to be careful with the inside of the phone. Okay, so we're just cleaning off all this adhesive gunk. Alright, so now we got most of it out. You can see it's kind of sticking on everything. Usually the adhesive won't do that. Right, then we're going to peel up the white adhesive on here. Okay, and I don't think the replacement adhesive is going to stick because of the gunkiness of the old adhesive. It feels kind of greasy, but we'll see if we can put the replacement adhesive as well. Most of the time the replacement adhesive isn't used because it doesn't really do anything. So here we go. We'll get the replacement screen. Okay, so here's the replacement adhesive piece, and the way you line it up here, let's see, am I doing this one? Here we go. So the adhesive will go in this way. All right. And here you can see it has a little cutout for this as well as the cutout for up there. Okay. All right, so first thing you want to do, of course, is peel off this one piece. And then you got to use this to line it up. It's kind of tricky. Normally I don't do it sideways like this. So let's see if I can do it. All right, get it all lined up. And kind of drop it in place. Oh, it's not lining up right. I want to make sure it gets lined up completely right. Okay. Then you can drop it in, and we'll see if we can actually get this to sit properly. A lot of times this replacement adhesive doesn't go in properly. We'll see if it will actually stay on this one. But as you can see, I think it's not even sticking down because of the old adhesive was too gunky. So we'll try, but I don't think it's gonna work. All right. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna stick. So we'll try it. Yep, nope, not sticking at all. So I guess we're just gonna not put that adhesive because it's not working. And we're gonna go ahead and do the screen, transfer the components for the screen. Okay, so when you get the screen, usually it's not gonna come with the camera sensors and everything in the top, so we have to transfer those over from the old one. We'll peel off this little adhesive protection thing. Oh, I'm getting the old adhesive from the other screen stuck on everything. Okay. And then you'll want to also check and make sure that the screw holes aren't covered by anything, and check if yours has this metal plate. So this one comes with the metal plate already applied. Some of them don't have that. Okay. I have to get that adhesive off my hands. It's like stuck on everything. All right. So once we do that, we're going to transfer over the camera thing here. Okay. and we're also going to transfer over the home button down here. So I'm going to do the home button first because it's using the tri-wing screws. So what you want to do is keep your finger underneath the home button and then undo that screw. Okay. And the reason you keep your finger under the home button is so when you undo that screw, it doesn't get pressure pushing on the back of the button. All right, now we're going to remove these screws here. The other two screws that are next to it. Geez, I keep getting calls. All right. Okay, now that we got those 4 screws out, we're going to remove this metal bracket. And then we're going to use some heat. I have this little portable heater thing here. So I'm going to use that to apply heat onto the screen. I'm just going to let the screen get warmed up a little bit. Okay. What did I do with my little needle? I'm going to need that. I was using it not too long ago. Might have covered it with this phone. Nope. Oh, there it is. Okay. So once this thing heats up, one thing you want to do is disconnect the connector on here. So this connector, it kind of sandwiches in on itself. So what I do is I use one finger to go between to hold down the bottom part, and then the other one to pull it separate like this, and then you can open the connector. All right, so I'm going to continue heating it a little bit. And then it's kind of go by feeling. If it feels really warm, then you can work on it. So usually what you want to do, move that part of the connector out of the way, that's part of the screen, and then I use this needle that I bent to kind of push underneath and scrape it up. So right now it's actually really hard to peel up, so I'm going to let it heat some more. Alright, so it's hard to show this in camera, but I just have it leaning against the heater like this. Okay. The adhesive is sticking on everything. Okay, so now that it's warmed up more, it should be able to come out easier. So you can see I just get the needle underneath, and then I just slide the needle, so get the needle underneath, and then I just slide it across. And then when it's released, you can push the fingerprint sensor through the hole like that. Okay. And now we're going to put the home button back into the new screen. So to do that, peel back the protective layer a little bit, and then you just thread the button through. Okay. Make sure to line up the little hole here with the little dimple that sticks up, and also pull the cable part here out of the way. Okay. Just like that. Make sure it's lined up. Okay, just like this. And then make sure, rub your finger over the home button to see that it's flush and not like sticking out. Okay. And then once you confirm, you can put the protective layer on top. And then we're gonna snap the connector back in place. Just fold it back over. A lot of times this piece, you'll have to push it closer to the screen. So I use my fingernail to push it over, and then I close that on top and push it down. All right. And then now that connector is held in place. Right, now we're gonna put back the bracket for the home button. And you want to put the outer screws before you put the screw for the home button. All right, this makes sure that everything is lined up properly and the metal bracket does go on top. Okay, so we'll get the screw. Hopefully you can actually see. So we'll put this screw in first. You want to put that in loosely just so it stays in place. Get the next screw. Put that in loosely as well. Last screw. And we'll tighten that down. All right, so tighten that down Tighten this screw down. Tighten this screw down. All right, and then we'll get the home button screw. And again, you want to keep your finger behind the home button, so that way when you push down on this screw while you try and screw it in, it's not going to push the home button through the hole. If you do that, then you can actually risk ripping the home button cable, and once you tear that, your home button is pretty much gone. And replacing the home button, you will never get back the fingerprint sensor, so it's very important that you don't just damage the home button. Okay, so now we're going to transfer over the camera sensors. All right, for that we're going to need to use a PH or JIS 00 screwdriver, and we're going to remove all the screws up here. Okay, just like this. If the screw gets stuck, you might have to like grab it or use tweezers to pull it out, or you can leave it in there and remove the other ones, and then when you lift it up, the screw will come out. So let's go ahead and get these other screws out. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we got all 5 screws out. You can lift this metal bracket up. Be careful not to rip the camera sensor out. Okay, so we'll lift this camera sensor up, and then we'll take the speaker assembly out. So this is the earpiece speaker. It has these 4 springs that contact down there. Okay, and then to remove this whole assembly, we're going to heat this up. Right, so we have to heat this so that way the adhesive is pliable and easy to peel out. Right. And usually the way you know it's warm enough is if you keep your hand on it, it's kind of hot and you can't really leave your hand there too long. But even slightly before that, it should be warm enough to peel out the components. Okay, they actually have a screen protector on this, so it makes it take longer to heat up. I didn't peel that off, but it shouldn't be an issue. Okay, once you feel it's warm enough, you can try and peel out these 2 sensors first. Okay, I use the needle for this as well, and then I just get underneath. Usually the sensor on the left will come out pretty easily, but then the one over here is a little bit more difficult. I have to go from one corner, kind of pry that a tiny bit, and then go around to the other side, and then lift up on there, and then just keep working it until that sensor comes out. There's a little bit of adhesive on this one, and that's why it's a little bit more difficult to remove. I don't know if you can see that string of adhesive that's actually coming out, so I'm going to get that out. All right, I'm going to heat it a little more. Okay, and then we're going to work our way starting with the speaker connectors down here. Hopefully you can actually see. I just get the needle under there. Okay, just like this. And then I slide the needle under to peel it up, and hopefully you can actually see what I'm doing. All right, and then I'm going to heat it some more. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go underneath between this this, I don't know what you call this bracket that holds the sensor in place. I'm going to go between that, and I'm going to actually lift up this area, which is the microphone assembly. Okay, so we're going to lift this up, and a lot of times you can peel up the whole I'll show you, well, this whole piece, but you don't have to lift up this whole piece with it, but it makes it easier. So if you lift up this whole earpiece bracket with it, you can peel the whole thing up. Okay, just like this. All right, and sometimes this double stick black piece comes out as well. You do need to peel that up and transfer that over. Okay, so I'm going to peel this black piece of plastic up. It's kind of stuck there. All right, and then if you look at the back of this, you'll see these exposed metal pins, so you want to actually cover that with the adhesive. We're going to peel this earpiece bracket off, so we don't need this piece. Okay, we're going to throw that away. We're actually done with the old screen now. You can set that aside. And again, we're going to transfer this plastic thing over here. So this piece is just to cover all these gold pins. Okay. All right, and we're just going to cover those gold pins back up with that. All right, just like that. All right, now that we got this whole piece, we're going to transfer it onto the new screen. Just like this. All right. And the way I line this up is I line up the little holes for the speaker thing here with the one on the new screen. Okay, so you just line those up. You want to be careful with this. This is pretty delicate. Okay, hopefully you can actually see what I'm doing. All right, so we lined up those two holes with that. After you do that, you can stick down this piece, and then we have to line up these two sensors. This one's the most difficult, the one with that little bracket that was holding it before, and the adhesive. But you have to make sure that goes in to that bracket completely. Okay. It's a little tricky to get that one in because you do have to get it to go straight down. But sometimes it'll go in easy and sometimes it's a pain. So it looks like it went in pretty easily right now. All right, we're gonna get this speaker. Make sure the springs are facing down. Line up the screw holes. And then you can kind of push this in place. You wanna be careful also with the camera lens not to touch it, or you can get grease in there and your camera pictures will all be cloudy. All right, so now that we got all of those in, we're gonna put this metal bracket on top. Just like that, hold it in place. All right, and then get the screws. Just like that, put the screws in loosely. Okay. Make sure everything is lined up, okay. All right. Right, and then tighten down all the screws. Just like that. All right, so now we got all those screws in. We're gonna switch back to the Y000, and now we just have to reconnect all these things, okay? So it's always good to start with this camera sensor one first because the connectors are kind of weird. Let me try and rub off this weird greasy stuff, okay? All right, so we'll start with this. Hopefully you'll be able to see. Make sure that these cables end up on top, all right? And then you push this on top. It kind of sometimes will help to use a little tool, plastic tool, to get this one in, but the easiest way is you kind of have the screen angled this way, and then you can push this cable down and try and angle it to where it goes in. If you move your fingernail over the top and it stays in place, you know it's in the right spot, then you can go ahead and push it down. All right, it's kind of weird working on this foam, squishy foam. Usually I wouldn't work on this, but to make it easier for you guys to see, I'm using this foam. Okay, once you get that in, we're gonna put that bracket on. Okay, get this bracket in place. All right, make sure you don't let the screen drop while you're doing this, or you can accidentally tear the cables, and that'll be pretty bad. All right, so grab the screw, loosely fit it. All right, get the other screw. Same thing, loosely fit that. All right, and then get the third screw. And now you can tighten it all the way, and tighten the other two. All right, there we go. Now we're gonna reconnect the other two cables here. Okay. This can be a little bit tricky. Get it lined up. Okay, I know it's hard to see because my hand's gonna be in the way trying to push the cable in down. Okay, that one's not going in right. You wanna make sure you have it connected right before you start putting pressure or you can damage it. All right. Push that cable in place, all right, and then the other cable. All right, I'm gonna have to move this foam because it makes it hard to work on this. So, okay, get that lined up. There we go. And push that down as well. Once you're sure you got all these cables connected, reconnect the battery connector, just like that. And then we're gonna press and hold the power button to make sure it turns on. All right, looks like it's good. So I don't know the pin to this, but after you turn it on, you wanna test the earpiece speaker. You wanna make a call and then cover this, make sure the screen goes off. Then you also want to check if the front-facing camera works and the home button. All right, once you do all of that, then you can go ahead and put the bracket back in. You don't have to turn off the phone to do this. You can leave the phone on, but just be careful with it. All right. All right, so we'll take the screw. All right, loosely fit it. Other screw. Loosely fit that. Third screw. Loosely fit that. And the last screw. All right, and then you can tighten it down. Tighten that down. Tighten that down. And tighten that down. All right, so now we got all the screws in. I'm gonna test it. Okay, the home button did work. You can see if the pin works, but you want to delete it before you finish so it doesn't enter wrong passwords. And looks like everything's good. Okay, so now we're gonna put the screen back in. All right. To put the screen back in, you want to angle it slightly up like this, pull it slightly back, and then slide the screen in forward so that way the top hooks latch, okay? And then after you get those top hooks in, you want to actually, you actually want to do the bottom half first. So make sure that you get the bottom half in first like this. And then once you get the bottom half in, you can go ahead and see, as you can see how it's bowed up, you can go ahead and just gently push those in. You don't want to put too much force. If something is stopping it from going down, you want to open it up and check. All right. So here you can see sometimes that little sensor pushes on the back of the screen. So I am going to have to open it up and see if I can move it to where it doesn't do that. I am going to peel this off. All right, just so it's not in the way. And then we're going to pop this back open. And it's very common for this. Usually what happens is this metal piece is not lined up well enough to here, so you might have to help guide it by pushing it up or down. All right, and then make sure that when you close it, it's gonna go in the right place, okay? So again, slide in the top, slowly lower the bottom half, okay, and then you can push that down, and then check it again and see now when I push it, it doesn't have that rainbowy effect. So now we know that everything is lined up properly. We're gonna put back in the pentalobe or P2 screws, and we are good to go. So let's go ahead and put those back in. Oops, I didn't line that up right. There we go. Okay. Tighten that down, and the last screw. Tighten that down. Alright, and that's all there is to it. So hopefully this video helped you guys. If it did, please like and subscribe, help others find my videos. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!